Today we're going to talk about device closure of the patent ductus arteriosus with a device called a piccolo PDA occluder. When children are inside of their mother's womb, they don't need to breathe, and they're born with a special connection called a ductus arteriosus. This connection allows blood to pass through the body and it bypasses the lungs. When children are born, that bypass is supposed to close in order for them to start using their lungs and start breathing. However, in some children that are born too early and too small, that connection does not close, and so it can sometimes be a problem. Approximately 1/2 of children that are born at 22 to 23 weeks of age will still have a patent ductus arteriosus at 2 to 3 weeks of age. In the past, the only options for us to close that were either using medicines, which work about half the time, and if it didn't close with those medicines, the only other option we had was surgery. With that surgery, we needed to cut open the baby's chest, on the side of their chest, and the surgeon would go in and physically tie off the ductus arteriosus. It was a successful surgery, however, many children suffered from a lot of complications. They could get very sick afterwards, and they were left with a scar on their chest for the rest of their lives. In 2019, the FDA approved this new device, which enables us to close these PDAs via catheterization, which is considered minimally invasive surgery, where we go through a vessel in the groin with a very, very small catheter through the blood vessel all the way up into the heart, and we release this tiny little plug which actually closes the hole by creating an intentional blood clot. That gets rid of the PDA, and we take the catheter out, and at most the child is left with a very, very pinpoint scar on their groin where we went into the blood vessel.
486. She is 2.85 kilos, creatinine is 0.22. We have consent, no known allergies, no anticoagulation. She's fine for a PDA closure with Dr. Casella.
Sounds great. So this procedure is approved for use in children as small as 700 grams. 700 grams is approximately 1 pound, and the size of that child is small enough to fit in the palm of your hand. This is generally a very successful procedure. The data would support a procedural success rate of somewhere around 99%. The exciting thing about this procedure is that we can do it safely in such small infants, and that this is a lifelong solution to the PDA. It gets rid of it for good, and you don't have to have any other procedures later on in life because of this.
Piccolo closure for PDA procedure started at 8:55. Time access was 8:59. Device release was 9:26.
Everything went perfectly.
Okay.
The hole was moderate in size, and I was able to close it with a device like we talked about. And I had no complications at all.